Good morning, grade 5. Today, inshallah, we will be revising the science subject. We are going to revise the number of lessons that we have took. The first lesson is what are oceans like? What objects are part of the solar system? What are solids, liquids, and gases? And how does matter change? So those are the lessons that inshallah we're going to revise today. Now let's go for the first question. It asks you to fill in the blanks with the suitable word from the word bank. The first question, the word bank has the word melting, solid, atoll, chemical property, condensation, salinity. So the first question asks you, and what is formed when the island sinks and the coral is left behind? Again, and what is formed when the island sinks and the coral is left behind? So from here, from those words, which word do you think is the correct word? Let's go for what are oceans like in order to remember. Can you remember this? When I showed you the atoll, and I told you that the atoll forms when the island sinks. This island has already sunk down and the coral is left behind. So this is how an atoll forms. Okay, so the correct word here we shall add is atoll. Particles are closely packed in a. Look here for this picture for the states of matter. The first one here, the first box, they are closely packed. The particles are very closely packed in a, of course, solid. Solid state has the particles closely packed. They do not move. They are like prisoned in the same place. Number 3 is the change from gas to liquid. Change from gas to liquid. If you have a cold drink, if you have cold juice, cup of cold juice on a hot day, what happens? You will find droplets of water starts to form on the glass from outside. What happened? The gas has changed into droplets or liquid, and we call this process condensation. Condensation is the change from gas that's in the air, the particles of gas in the air, to liquid on the cup or glass of juice. Okay? Number 4, change from solid to liquid is, the change from solid to liquid is what we know by melting. Remember, if you have butter, if your mom is cooking and she's going to use butter, so butter is solid and it's going to change into liquid when it melts, when there is heat down there. So the process we call melting is the change from solid into liquid. Change from solid into liquid. So melting is the answer for question number 4. Now let's go for question number 5. Rusting is what of iron? Rusting. What is rusting? Can you remember what is rusting? What is rusting? Remember this picture? The rusting of iron. So the ability to rust, forming orange color here, is a chemical property of iron. Chemical property is the property that describes how a substance interacts with other substances. So when the iron has already interacted with the oxygen and water in the air, what happened? A chemical property of iron is to rust. The iron is able to rust. Okay? So we name this that the iron has chemical property to rust. Number 6, ocean water is salty. Ocean water is salty. And this saltiness is called, ocean water is salty, and this saltiness is called, what do you think? We have already finished all the words here, and we only have the last word here. Let's go back to the slides in order to remember. Remember this when I told you that salt water, when the water is salty, we call this salinity. Salinity, how much salt inside the water. And this saltiness, we express the saltiness inside the ocean's water by the word salinity. Okay, so the answer is salinity. Let's now go for the next question. Match the following. Match the following. We have on one column liquid, evaporation, wood, gas, and the other column we have solid, takes the shape of the container, no definite volume or shape, change from liquid to gas. Okay, now we will start with the word liquid. Is the liquid solid? Of course no. Does the liquid take just the shape of container? Let's see. Does it have no definite volume or shape? Does it change from liquid to gas? No, the correct answer is that it takes the shape of the container. If you put the water in a jar, it's going to take the shape of the jar. If you put it in a glass, it will take the shape of the glass. If you put it in a box, it will take the shape of the box. So liquid, if you put water in a vase, it will take the shape of the vase. Okay, so it takes the shape of any container you put it inside it. Now let's go for the word evaporation. Next word, evaporation. Is it solid? No. Does it have no definite volume or shape? No, it's not related even. Does it mean that the change from liquid to gas? Yes, that's correct. When you are going to cook macaroni, what happens? You put a pan on the heater and it has water inside it, right? So this water, when you heat it, what happens? It starts to develop steam, and the steam goes up in the air. It's becoming gas. So what happened here? The liquid changed into gas. What do we call this process? We call it evaporation. Evaporation. Now the wood, is it solid or doesn't have definite volume or shape? Of course it's solid. Wood is example of solid. It's something solid. It's not liquid, it's not gas. And gas at the end has no definite volume or shape. That's correct. D. Okay, let's write now true or false. Freezing occurs when liquid change to solid. Yes, that's correct. Why? Because if you have water and you put it inside the ice rack and then freeze it, what it develops? It develops ice cubes, solid. So the water, the liquid, has changed into solid, and we call this process as freezing. So true. Venus and Earth are called sister planets. Venus and Earth are called sister planets. Yes. Why? Because they almost have the same size. They look like each other because of their size. So yes, Venus and Earth, they are called sister planets. True. Particles of gas move around more than in a liquid. Yes, of course. Why? Because gas in the air moves freely everywhere. The air around you moves freely. It can move out of the container, as you can see here, the last one. The last one is the gas movement of the particles. It's everywhere around you. It goes anywhere, it goes everywhere in the room. It's moving freely, so it moves more than in the particles of a liquid, of course. An asteroid is made up of rock and metal. Is it made up of rock and metal? Yes, it's made up of rock and metal. Why? Here's it. Let's make sure. Asteroid is made up of rock and metal. They fuse together, the rocks and metal. This is how it looks, the asteroid. Rocks and metal, they fuse together and they form asteroid. So true. The last question in the true or false. Earth is from outer planets? No, of course, this is not correct. Why? Because Earth is from the inner planets. Let's look on the inner planets here. They are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, the 4 inner planets. However, the outer planets, that they are far from the sun, those inner planets are near to the sun. Here is the sun, and we have 4 planets near to the sun: Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Earth. But look for the outer planets away from the sun, far from the sun and cold. What do we call them? Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus. They are very cold because they are far from the sun. We name them outer planets. Outer means far, away, outside, very far from the sun. So Earth is near to the sun. It's from inner planets. Okay, let's now name the 3 states of matter. We have already discussed this. The first one, the particles are closely packed in the first container. So this is called what? Solid. And the second one, particles move but not too much. They move a little. So this is what? Liquid. And the third one, particles are moving freely even outside the container. So these particles of matter, we call it gas. Solid, liquid, and gas. Now let's do the 5th question. Choose the answer from the word bank and fill in the boxes. Those are, remember, this lesson is for what are oceans like. So the major features on the ocean floor. We are going now to explain or write the correct definition for each part underneath the ocean. This is the ocean floor. So the first layer, the first part here, this one, that's 200 meters depth. What do we call it? Remember, it's the underwater border of each continent. It's the border just underneath the ocean's surface. So what do we call it? From the words here, let's start reading the words. We have abyssal plain, volcanic island, continental slope, continental shelf, continental rise, oceanic trench. So let's now try to remember what was this word actually. We called it what? Try to look in your book. We named it continental shelf. Continental shelf. So the first example or the first word that's after the surface of the water directly, we named it with the word continental shelf. Now remember when I told you there is like a slide, it's going to fall steep area where the ocean rapidly gets deeper. What do we call this area? It's steep like the slide, it's sliding down. We called it continental slope. Continental slope. Why? Because it's steep area where the ocean rapidly gets deeper. Continental slope. Then there is a lower portion of the continental slope. Remember the last portion of the continental slope? What did we call it? We called it continental rise. Continental rise is the third layer and it's the last lower portion of the continental slope. Then there is vast area on the deep ocean floor down there. The ocean floor. We reached the deep, the very big flat area on the deep ocean floor. We called it, yes, abyssal plain. Abyssal plain is the vast, deep, flat area on the ocean floor. Now there is underneath the floor, there is something down there that looks like V. Remember this part? We named it oceanic trench. Oceanic trench. And then, if we go up there again at the beginning, there's volcanic mountains on the ocean floor that become islands where they are tall enough to break through the water surface. What did we call this? Volcanic island. Volcanic island is the last part that you need to know in this picture. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words you need to remember their names and their places on this diagram, which explains the major features of the ocean floor. Now let's go for the sixth question. Circle the correct answer. Circle the correct answer. Choosing the correct answer. What is the hottest planet? Is it Earth or Venus? Of course, the one which is very near to the sun, as you can see here, the one that is very nearer to the sun is Venus. And not only because it's near to the sun, but it has thick carbon dioxide atmosphere, which makes it the hottest planet. Venus is the hottest planet because of the thick carbon dioxide. Their air there in Venus is very thick, that makes the weather very hot. So it makes it the hottest planet. Now, what is the largest planet in our solar system? Is it Jupiter or Mercury? Of course it is Jupiter. Why? Here's it. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. Mercury is very small. It's close to the sun, but very small in comparison to Jupiter. Jupiter is very big, so it's the largest planet in our solar system. Let's now go for the third question. It's known as the dwarf planet, the very, very, very tiny planet. Is it Mars or Pluto? Of course, its name is Pluto. Remember? Here is it, the dwarf planet Pluto. Pluto is very far. It's the farthest one from the sun. Very, very far, very small, very away. So we call it dwarf, means tiny. Tiny, very tiny and small. So Pluto is the dwarf planet. Resistance to burning is chemical property of what and what? Resistance means that they do not burn. They do not burn at all. Of course, we have gold and water or coal and water. Of course, the coal gets burned. You know, when you're doing barbecue, of course you need to burn it. But does the gold burn? No. So it's resistant to burning. It's resistant to burning. So gold and water, they are resistant to burning. They do not burn, and that's a chemical property of gold and water. Number 5, we can measure mass with graduated cylinder or pan balance. Mass is something solid, and you need to weigh it, okay? But graduated cylinder is used for measuring liquids. So remember here, solid, liquid, and gases. Here we have, how does matter change? We can measure mass with pan balance. That's the pan balance that we have. But the graduated cylinder is used for liquids only, and we use the word mass for solids. So we will use the pan balance to measure mass. Now remember this picture. We use this diagram in order to represent the oceans, the 5 oceans we have on Earth. So the first one, we have to choose the answer from the word bank. Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Southern Ocean, and Arctic Ocean. So the first one here, up there in the Arctic pole, we named it what? Arctic Ocean. Arctic Ocean. We named it Arctic Ocean because it's up there in the Arctic pole. And then the biggest one, the biggest ocean, we named it Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean, it's the biggest one. And then the one that has letter A as well, here, near America, and it has letter A, we named it Atlantic Ocean. That's correct, Atlantic Ocean. Now the one that is near India, down here, we named it Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean. And the ocean at the south of the earth, what did we name it? We named it as Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean. So mainly those are the important terms and questions and revision for the science for the last lessons we have took. I hope it was beneficial for you, inshallah. Thank you very much and see you next time.